Hey, in this video I'll be talking about why do your favorite manga get axed so often, and also the reason why manga get axed in general, and the history of axing manga, though I'll be mainly talking about Weekly Shonen Jump. So, without further ado, let's just get right into it. I want to start this video off by saying why do manga get axed in general. In theory, manga get cancelled because they're not popular and are bad by rating standards. However, as I'm sure you know, there are often manga that you and seemingly a lot of other people love that still get axed. Why is that? Well, it's mainly because manga, as I'm sure you know, is made in Japan, which I'm also sure you know, is very old school. This is very important because this changes a lot with how manga gets axed. Let me tell you why really quickly. Japan has always had let's say, very little interest of what the world outside of Japan thought of what they made. This isn't just with manga, but with other media in general. But as I said, this is very prevalent with manga, because often, in fact almost always, people's taste in manga varies a lot depending where they live / grew up. For example, outside of Japan, I very rarely see people saying something good about Me and Roboko, saying it's a wasted space in the Weekly Shonen Jump magazine slot, and they blame it for having their favorite series cancelled instead of Me and Roboko. But in Japan, Me and Roboko actually has pretty good ratings. Right now, it's in the middle of the magazine ratings wise, but its ratings vary very much, from the top 5 to the bottom 5 sometimes. And the only ratings that the Weekly Shonen Jump staff care for is the Japanese readers, because I mean, they will get almost all, if not all, of their profits from them. But if they took ratings from all around the world instead of just Japan, I think it's more than safe to say that a lot of your favorite series would still be thriving. It's actually very rare for both Japanese and worldwide readers to have generally the same taste in manga. For example, one of my favorite series of all time, Mama Yu Yu. I fucking love this series, and it seemed at the time that everyone who read it thought the same thing. But the Japanese readers didn't think so, as it sat towards the bottom of the rankings, often only above 2 on Ice, which is also another axed series. Now, if the Weekly Shonen Jump staff really still only takes the Japanese readers' opinions, then this was an obvious choice for them. I mean, why waste a perfectly good magazine spot for a failing series when you could give it to a different author who might make the next One Piece, right? I'll talk about this in a little bit. While I do understand this point of view from them, I think it's way past due for them to start looking at the bigger picture outside of just Japan. I'll talk about this in like a minute. But there are some series that both Japanese and all other fans love. For example, Kagurabachi. At first, not going to lie, both me and some other people online actually believed that Kagurabachi was going to get cancelled alongside Mama Yu Yu and 2 on Ice. But Kagurabachi made it past that serialization route, and finally the Japanese readers realized, wait, this shit is fire! And this is one of the few series that both Japanese readers and worldwide readers love. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about the outside Japan part. While I heavily recommend you read Bakuman, no, seriously, it's probably like a top 5 manga for me. It is a little bit outdated by now. If you don't know what Bakuman is, really quickly, it's a manga from the authors of Death Note and Platinum End about a duo trying to make manga. And in the manga, we get a lot of insight about how it is actually in the manga industry. But as I said, it is probably a bit outdated by now. Even with Japan progressing excruciatingly slowly towards accepting and hearing the worldwide opinions. I think there's one manga in particular which proves this best. Undead Unluck was actually a relatively unsuccessful manga for Japan. I mean, it had pretty bad ratings overall, especially for a long-running manga, and the manga sales were below average. And it didn't even have a saving grace like Black Clover had with its wildly successful anime, with Undead Unluck having announced its anime only about midway through its entire serialization. So how did this series end up being so fucking long that it became the 45th longest manga ever in Weekly Shonen Jump? Ever since 1968? Well, I have a theory. Of course, I have no substantial proof, but I think that the Japanese staff actually listened to the people's opinion outside of Japan. I know, it's fucking crazy. But literally click on any chapter and read its comments. It's all just praise. I think they saw the continuous praise for it outside of Japan and took a chance for the first time. They let it continue serializing to see where this would go. And well, as someone who read all of the manga, I can say pretty confidently that it ended up being axed, but a little bit differently. It was long known that Undead Unluck was in its final arc, and just as the final fight was about to start, there was a serialization meeting. Probably. And I'm guessing none of this is confirmed. This is just my personal theory. That it was going to be cancelled. But not during that serialization meeting, but the next one. So the author was told that they had about 15 chapters left to finish the story. So they did this thing which made everyone that was reading understand that it was ending a lot sooner than anticipated. And while the fight was fulfilling, I feel a little bit cheated out of so many amazing fights and backstories about most of these characters, which I think the author was saving for those final fights. But nonetheless, the fight was awesome, and I don't think the author could have done anything better with what they were given. And the ending was actually really good too. Also, I have another theory, but it is a lot less realistic. So just hear me out. The CEO of Weekly Shonen Jump just really loved Undead Unluck and personally vetoed any attempt to axe it. But I really doubt it. Also, I have one last theory of why it got axed, but I just wasn't sure where to include this, so just listen. After the anime somewhat failed, it felt like the Weekly Shonen Jump staff lost all hope in this series going big and decided to start pushing it faster towards its ending. Alright, the next thing I want to talk about is the amount of series they axe. Okay, to tell you the truth, I wasn't entirely sure what to call this segment, so I'll just stick to that. But I have two main things to talk about in this segment. First is their obsession with giving new authors a chance. Now, let me be entirely clear. I don't mind them giving a chance with new authors in the magazine. In fact, I think it's great they're giving so many opportunities to them. But I think they're being a bit too eager with it. They can be lucky, and the rookie they gave a chance to makes a smash hit immediately. But that just doesn't usually happen. I mean, let's say the new manga Embers. They didn't even have a single one-shot before that. And look where it's at now. The bottom of the magazine. Now, I don't want to blame anyone, but shouldn't they at least test the authors a few times with a couple one-shots before a serialization? I mean, another example. The author of Kagurabachi. They had 5 one-shots before Kagurabachi. They tested him. And look where it's at now. One of the top manga right now. But for Embers, the only experience they had writing manga is the illustrator who worked as an assistant for Blue Lock. Now, once again, I don't want to blame anyone for the low ratings, but I'd expect for every serialization to test out how the general population would like it with a one-shot before the big thing, you know? I mean, even One Piece tested out the waters before serialization. And to continue about the eagerness, the newest, at the time of recording this video, manga in Weekly Shonen Jump, Nice Prison, in my opinion, is, let's say, not going to end well. I gave up on reading new series that came out of Weekly Shonen Jump a long time ago. I stopped reading just because I was kind of tired of reading week to week, not because the manga were bad. And for the first time in a long time, I gave a series a chance on their first chapter. I tried reading Nice Prison, and I was kind of disappointed. Now, I understand the series is a comedy, and comedy is subjective, but I only managed to read the first half of the first chapter before I had to go do something else, and later, I just didn't feel like finishing the chapter. In the entire chapter, I laughed once, and it was because this guy went to prison for ding-dong ditching his own house. Okay, that was kind of funny. But apart from that, I was reading the chapter stone-faced, and you might be thinking, what does any of this have to do with eagerness? Well, Nice Prison wasn't tested as a one-shot, and the author had only 2 one-shots, okay, 1 one-shot and 1 very short manga, before Nice Prison, which were years ago. His first work was the very short manga, which was 2 chapters long, and ended in August 20th, 2016, and his one-shot was serialized in April 1st, 2019. Alright. quickly, the second thing. I think it's stupid that the magazine has a limited number of spaces in it. Why? I understand you want to try new authors with serialization, but why must you cancel a different series because of that? I think it's so dumb they limit the number of series they have to 20. What if a series just needs more time to find its footing? What if a series looks like it's going to fail, but it would have a cult-like fan base which will support it for years, which would pay off in the long run? There's so many factors they're just ignoring because they want to have around 20 series at the same time, when they could profit so much more by removing the limit of manga. Sure, you could still axe manga if they're actually failing, like close to no one reads it and even less people like it, then it will be understandable. Okay, imagine it like it's a tree. You would want to cut off the dead branches, sure, but what the Weekly Shonen Jump staff are effectively doing is cutting off both the new branches that didn't produce, let's say, apples in their first year, and cutting off the old branches that are starting to give less and less apples with each year. The new branch is still growing and will give you so much with just some time, and the old branch, even if less, is still producing. There's no need to cut it off yet. In that case, you should let the author know that in case their series wasn't already heading towards its ending, then maybe they should start finally heading towards it, to have a satisfying and good ending that the fans would enjoy and the story could complete itself without the rush of an impending axe. Alright, the last main topic which I want to talk about, and in fact, the entire reason why I got this video idea in the first place. It's that it is incredibly hard to predict how well a series will do. And to cut some slack for the Weekly Shonen Jump staff, no one can predict if a series is going to do amazingly or is going to go to shit, and it's worth giving a different series a chance instead. Here, I'll show you two different series as first chapters. Both will be the same chapter, like both will have chapter 7 or chapter 11 or etc etc. So, here's the first example. I won't tell you the names of the series right now, but you'll definitely know at least one of them. Alright, countdown. If you guessed the bottom one is the one that became successful, then you're wrong. Yeah, that was Samurai 8. The other one was The Promised Neverland. Okay, I'm sure that was just a fluke. Let's try another one. I'll give you some time to think about this. If you picked bottom again, then you're wrong. Let's see. The left one was Doron Doraron, and the right one was Demon Slayer. Okay, maybe this one will work out. If you picked the top one, then you're wrong. Damn, you suck at this. If you picked the right one, then you picked Shadow Eliminators. And if you picked the left one, then you picked Food Wars. Alright, I hope you're starting to see patterns. Here, now use what you learned from your previous guesses and guess this one. Come on, you know this! If you picked the bottom one, then you're wrong. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what made you pick that. That was Yokai Buster Murakami. And the right one was Blue Box. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Just guess. If you picked the upper one, then you're right! You picked Kuroko's Basketball. The other one was Time Paradox Ghost Rider. And so you see, it's incredibly hard to predict how a manga would turn out. A seemingly hopeless manga, if given enough time, may become the next One Piece. However, a series with seemingly endless potential can flop just as fast. So you can't even really blame the Weekly Shonen Jump staff for cancelling a series you love. They are just professionals that have the highest chance of predicting how well a series will do. Of course, they are still guessing nonetheless. They can and often are wrong about how a series will do. That's why they work in big teams, so they can make the most correct guesses as they can. But still, as I said, a guess is still a guess, and nothing is guaranteed. Alright, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed, please be sure to like and subscribe, and wow, I loved making this video. It was so fun, and I had this idea for a while. But this video came out so much better than I thought it would. But if you enjoyed this video, then you might enjoy my reading Axed manga video. It's a two-part video where I read the first chapter of Axed mangas and rated them. I read a total of 20 series as chapter 1s, 10 in each video. So, once again, I hope you enjoyed and I hope to see you next time. See ya!